Welcome to the Authorpreneur Podcast, where we talk to authors and business owners about how they are using books to market themselves and their businesses. I'm your host, Chris Green, and in each episode of the Authorpreneur Podcast, we talk to a successful author and business owner to see exactly how they are using their books and author status to grow their businesses and serve their customers. We'll talk about what's working, the benefits of becoming a published author, and we may even come up with some creative new marketing strategies. On this episode of the Authorpreneur Podcast, I talk with Brad Young, the author of C.H.A.N.G.E, C.H.A.N.G.E, Simple Concepts That Will Change Your Life Forever. Brad is an exceptional and driven individual dedicated to personal growth and passionate about inspiring positive change in the lives of others. Hailing from rural Tennessee, Brad knows firsthand the value of pursuing education and hard work to attain success and has forged an impressive career path as a result. Whether you're looking to improve yourself, your career, or your outlook on life, Brad is the perfect guide to help you get there. His expert knowledge, boundless energy, and motivational spirit are sure to inspire and empower you to take your life to the next level. So why not grab a copy of one of his books or book him for a speaking engagement today and get ready to unlock your full potential and embrace the transformative power of positive change. And of course, Brad uses his books and author status to grow his business and help more people. I really think you're going to enjoy this episode. Hey, what's up, everybody? Chris Green here with the Authorpreneur Podcast. Today, we're talking with Brad Young. We've already talked a little bit about setting up cameras and trying to make things look perfect and overthinking all these things. I didn't want to miss some of the cool things that we were talking about because, Brad, you were just saying you got rooms in your house, you got all these different things, and you're wondering, does it need to be like this? Should I hire someone to do this? Do I need to buy something else? And I would make the case that if you go too far in the I need to look professional and look perfect, you can actually lose context with a lot of your listeners or with your viewers who all of a sudden start to see something being overly produced and think it's too professional and think it's like from a huge company and they're out of touch with, the common customer. And it must be like a sales pitch or something. And they actually would rather have that homegrown, I know this is just a regular guy like me, not amateur production, but not this. If you're too polished, I do think it can take away from things. I don't know if you've seen that.
Oh, 100%. I spent way too much time doing it. I've called so many people trying to, figure it out. And, when I set up these rooms, it's exactly what you said. I mean, because it's like the more professional looking the room, the better I get it, the more I realize that, you're losing people because I watch YouTube and different things and I see, people just standing in the woods, talking, putting out really good content, sitting in their vehicle, and I'm like, wow, it's, because I've thought it way too much because, I have this studio set up. I've got a library set up. I've got all these rooms. And
do you ever film in your gym?
Oh, yeah. I'm getting ready for the 4x4x48. So I'm going to put out a little bit of content on that because that's at the end of March. And so I've had to really up my training a significant amount. And so it's, right now I'm training 3 times a day, if not more, because, you're doing 4 miles every 4 hours for 48 hours. And it's I did it a couple times. And last year I was hurt. But before that, I mean, it's a real challenge. And so I'm going to, put content, going through some of that training because it's not just running. There's so many more things that you have to do to get ready for it.
Because you've done it before, so you have a level of expertise. So if someone has not done it before, they think, oh, I could do that. It's like, no, you don't understand what actually goes into it, whether it's doing a new exercise routine, whether it's setting up cameras for vlogging or for making podcasts or whatever it might be. So frequently, people don't know the stuff. They don't know what they don't know. It's that behind the scenes stuff where people who are considered experts make difficult things look easy. And that's where people can kind of get ahead of themselves and be like, oh, I saw this guy, Brad, he was just doing this thing. It looked pretty easy. They don't know. And that's where, it leaves the door open and a huge opportunity for people who want to know more to be like, look, you don't know what you don't know, but I can help you. If you want to learn more about this, I can help you. Let me tell you where I was. Let me tell you what I learned. Let me tell you where I failed. Let me tell you what helped me overcome this. And if you want to overcome this too, I can share my story. Then they actually connect with you because that's what they connect with. They don't connect with, oh man, I saw this guy, Brad. He had this sick video setup. He's my guy. Like what? That doesn't happen anywhere ever. But I think as creators and people who put out content, we can get caught up in that and be like, oh man, if my library setup just looked a little bit better, we're like, no, stop, forget it. What do people actually care about? How can I actually connect with somebody and help them? I think that gets lost when we go down the road of megapixels and LED lights and all this stuff.
100%.
So I want to talk to you about your book, or should I say books, because I think you're trying to be the most prolific author of 2024. Is that what's going on?
That's true. That is true. I've got 52 books that I'm, producing, publishing throughout the year. I've written a lot of the books, and I'm, going through the edit, to make sure that everything, is going. But I'm just, I'm utilizing things that I've lived. And so this is the thing about it is, every book, I've did these things, I participated. So I'm, it's things that I've actually been a part of versus, some people write things that they haven't lived as much. And so, I mean, every one is a simple book that I've made, into 120, 150 pages, but, there's room to where, we can go to advanced techniques and go way past it, but it's just given a simple, a simple way to do everything. Essentially it's like a simple guide, then we can grow. It's kind of like what I've got coming out Friday is going to be, it's exactly, I think it's AI Unleashed. Let's see here. It's Artificial Intelligence Unleashed. And
So that's book number 9 that comes out on March 1st.
And and essentially, I mean, I've been working with AI for years. I've worked with some, really prestigious places, getting to understand it better, but also, I worked in venture capital. I still do. And I work with, and we started off with nothing that looked like several years ago. It's been like 2 or 3 years before anybody even knew what ChatGPT or anything was. Like, they had no idea. We were using OpenAI and it looked like nothing. I mean, it looked like just almost a blank screen, and I seen it grow out. And so having that perspective helps be able to see and be able to understand how it could help business coaches and different people that need it. The average person can utilize it so many ways to automate their life and all those type of things. But that'll be out on March 1st. And it's got some really the good, bad, and ugly, because there's some ugly parts of it too. We're working out, but it's, I've still been working with a guy too. It's funny. We're working on it several years, and his finished product is, I mean, it's light years away from where it started off.
Oh, sure. So the books that you're putting out, are you only putting them out on Kindle, or are you going to also do them in paperback?
They are in paperback. Everyone's in paperback, and I'm actually going to be selling the books on my website as well. And they're going to be at certain publishers like I think Barnes and Noble and a few other places like that. And so
Gotcha. Well, I see the paperback now. That so the pre-order ones are only showing Kindle, but I'm guessing once it goes live, then the paperback shows up as well. So yeah, you're already up to week 13 with pre-orders all the way through March 21st, March 28th. I am a little jealous of this idea. I am not necessarily just a marketer at heart, but a book marketer. If I had to niche down, like what am I best at? Book marketing. It's like my favorite thing to talk about. And what you're doing is just giving me like fireworks of ideas of like the things that you're going to be able to do, not just as you do them, but then since you're the one who created all this content and you know how all these digital assets, what you can then do at the end of the year. I don't know if you already thought ahead of this, of like, hey, I'll publish them all as one giant book, and I'll only print 100 copies, and I'll have a fundraising raffle to give them away, or whatever you have so many options. And I think that's what I really hope people get out of conversations like this. Like, wait a minute, this guy Brad is committed to publishing a book every week for the entire year. And by the end of the year, he's going to have so much content and so many assets. I sent this text over to Nick the other day. It's just something kind of popped in my head. It says, a book is just a book. But when it's your book, it's an asset. And Nick was like, yes, absolutely. Let's put that on T-shirts, like, because he gets it as an author himself and as a marketer. And I think that's what I want people to kind of realize. Like, this isn't like when I'm a self-publishing evangelist, where I think people should be publishing anything they can, even if it's short, sweet, your life story, what you're good at, something. Because once you have that, especially if you're using it in your business, the marketing doors just open wide for things you can do as a published author with Kindle books and with paperback books that you just can't do with anything else. And it's just such an easy way, in my opinion, to differentiate yourself from people who are like, oh, I could never write a book. Oh, that's too hard. I don't have time for that. That's probably too expensive. Like, whatever, man. I'll be over here writing a book every week. That's how valuable self-publishing is to me and my business. So you're ahead of me on this book a week thing. I'm a little obsessed with it. I'm jealous. I'm jealous that I didn't come up with this idea. So anybody I tell about this, you will get full credit. Don't worry.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It's a lot of fun. I really enjoy it because, you get to contribute, throughout the year, and it continue to grow. And I mean, it's, in so many, I do everything in health, wealth, happiness, and skills training, or, or being able to develop a new skill, just like people that are not familiar with AI book coming out this week, or like last week, I did one on venture capital. It was a simple book, but obviously for anything that's going to be advanced, they need to, get in touch with me to evaluate their pitch, and we can work on, a lot of things like that. And I got to meet with, quite a few VC people next week. So it's, I live it and I do it. And so I'm trying to, put things that are, that are relatable. I've got, there's a lot of self-development in there from sales, things of that nature. I mean, I'd have to look at all the books because it's hard to remember everyone.
You got Financial Freedom, The Happiness Blueprint, Simplifying Your Life, Path to Greatness, Food for Thought, From Idea to Investment, and you're running some promos. Okay, I like how you're running promos on these as well.
I'm getting better with those. It's funny. I had to call. Actually, I called him. Like, hey, man, I need some help. Getting these things together. And so that's one of the big things that that I've learned as I'm trying to do this thing is talk to someone that's an expert. Find somebody that knows what they're doing. That's better than you. That's more skilled than you. Because we all have our skills. I've got certain things that I'm really good at, and there's a lot of things I'm really bad at. And so I just have to call somebody. Like instead of banging your head on the wall like we were talking about the lighting. Trying to do all those things. I mean, it's talk to an expert or figure it out. And, we figured out the simplest path.
No, once you figure something out, then you have something. And I think a lot of maybe entrepreneurs or business owners kind of fall into this where they don't realize, hey, I spent the time figuring this out. This is now something valuable to somebody else. So like I figured out how to set up the perfect room, perfect lighting, budget under $500. You're going to get this type of look and have all these things. But since you've done it and you just know how to do it now, I feel a lot of people lose sight of the value that they have now acquired, the skill that they've acquired. And it's something that they can actually share with someone else, even if they don't consider themselves to be a podcasting or a video or a room lighting setup expert. They have that skill set now. And some people really like figuring it out themselves, right? And we got Google and we got YouTube, and you can spend hours figuring it out yourself. Or you could find somebody and say, hey, can I just pay you $100 to set this up for me? And you can fast track it. And I think a lot of people get stuck on I need to figure out how to do this instead of figuring out who knows how to do this and how can I get a hold of them and how can I fast track this and say, look, for $100, can I solve my problem in 1 hour? Or am I going to solve this problem myself in 10 hours and save $100? And the choice is there. Right. But sometimes people forget that maybe you don't want to pay yourself $10 an hour to figure out how to set up your lighting, right? Unless that's what you want to do. So we all have choices. But I think like the stuff that you're sharing, especially through your books, where people will be like, oh, for Pete's sakes, find somebody who's good at this. This is how to fast track this. This is how to, so many people are looking for fast tracks and shortcuts. And I think people are misunderstanding or have the wrong conception of what that actually means. There are shortcuts. Most of the time they take money or a complete change in mindset. And I would make the case that a change in mindset is not something that can happen quickly. It can happen, but it doesn't necessarily happen quickly outside of, unfortunately, negative traumatic events. That'll change your mindset quickly. A divorce, a bankruptcy, a death in the family. Yes, you will change your worldview. I have not found any way to change your worldview in a short amount of time outside of those things. Change your worldview takes time. If you don't want to go through a negative traumatic event, which I would not recommend, I would not try to manufacture a negative traumatic event as a shortcut. So understanding that, then you can say, okay, I understand that there are no shortcuts. I understand this is going to take time. How am I going to do that? What's my plan? Do I need to join somebody's coaching group? Do I need to read every single book from Brad for an entire year? Whatever it might be. But once you understand that it will take time to do this, then people can stop looking for shortcuts. Otherwise, they'll spend 10 years looking for shortcuts before and they've completely wasted 10 years because there are no shortcuts.
Zero. There's zero. And it's funny you mentioned that because I took a speaking on camera course just recently, and the value there was so great. I've still continued to work with them, because I seen the value. I mean, the gentleman did a 1 hour course, and it was just more like putting your hands up and things like that, because it's things that we don't do naturally sometimes. It's things that or having the right setup, or or even looking in the camera right stuff. And so it was the value was significant. And like I said, I could have spent years trying to do it, and that's and it's like, it seems like the more mistakes you made, the harder you are on yourself, the harder it gets. And then going in and just looking at that, I took a 1 hour course. It was so helpful. I mean, just being able to do it and, utilize the hands, because basically he said that, people, it takes their, what is it? He said they don't feel threatened when you put your hands up because they can see you don't
Yeah.
have anything in your hands. It goes back, many years, but it's a natural instinct. If you put your hands up, and I say you talk with your hands too, and you put your hands up, and so it takes that fear. It was quite, like I said, it was a really good course.
Yeah, I remember learning that in an anthropology class where I think they kind of think the origin of the handshake was like if you hadn't met someone before, like you don't know who they are, you don't know if they have a weapon or something, like medieval times where it's like, I don't know you, man, and they're competing for resources, so you put your hand out. You're like, I don't have a weapon. Like, all right, cool, I don't have a weapon. And my other hand might have a weapon, but like they think that's how it kind of started. I mean, they think it seems like a pretty good theory to me. I don't know how else it would start. Um, But I want to talk to you about your book because, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like you have this flagship book of Change. Is that like kind of your flagship book that is kind of designed to get people into kind of your world and your other books? Is that how it's set up?
Yes, yes. I mean,
Okay,
I
cool.
love change.
That makes a lot of sense. So tell us about Change and tell us about, go for it.
Well, change. I mean, actually, change is the number 2 podcast. I mean, in the top 2% globally of podcast right now. Still, it's been for a while now. It's essentially it's communication, habits, attitude, network, goals, and education, and it's things that I've been poor at, been really I struggled with over time. The communication factor. It's just something that I struggled with, and so when I wrote the book, I was like, okay, what are things that I've struggled with, and how can I correct them and keep myself accountable? And so that's kind of how it got started, looking at the communication, because, everybody's not a great communicator, even though everybody thinks they are, they're not, and so we have to figure out, all the forms of communication and how we're doing it. Just like, me and social media, I mean, I'm getting better, but it's a form of communication. I'm still kind of trying to embrace, but it's something that, we understand, but as a person, we're communicating things to ourselves too. And so a lot of your negative thought and your negative habits come out of what you're telling yourself. People tell themselves awful stories. They live 10 years ago and not right now. They're not looking towards the future. They're not living in now. They're still worried about things that happened 10, 15 years ago, or sometimes 3 or 4, but they get caught up in that. And so when we look at the communication factor, it's the foundation of of everything that that change is about. It's just making sure you're communicating in an effective manner, and to yourself and to others, and let them know, because I mean, people assume too many things, and that's one of the big things that I try to do is ask questions. I want to that's one of the big things I want to do is ask more questions and find out more about people and things, because people always they assume way too many things. And so communication, in any business, I found it to be, when I go in to coach somebody or go in for consulting, just about every single time when there's turmoil within a company, it's a communication every time. And people the same thing, no matter where they're at. It's like tomorrow I'm going to speak at a prison. And so there's a lot of communication factors that led some people into prison. Obviously there was habits and the other concepts, but the communication, and so that's one of the things that we work on when we go down there, is we work on, communication, and we coach them for job skills and job training and interviews and things, but we coach them on communication, being able to communicate and be able to understand, because they're in a rough, tough environment. And so being in that for however many years and then coming out, there's a big, it's just a, it's a lot, and they come out and they still
Sure.
talk to, some of my associates, and they talk to them. And, we find out that there's so many things, that simple things that you and I take for granted, that just seem to be overwhelming. And a lot of it comes on communication when they're in there and then out. People in general, communication is just it's something we all have to work on and improve, get better in. But, the next step of change is habits. And so, your habits are going to align with your goals. And so when we look at your habits, I go through and I write down my habits every day. I make sure I keep a log of more than good, bad, or ugly. I keep up, and I realize that my habits end up, with my goals. I mean, if my habits are right, I can make the goals. Whatever goals I set personally, I can make, financially, business, whatever, if my habits are right. But as soon as those habits get off, that's where I have problems. And that's where, everything, started with the change. I'm looking at, the program. It's like, okay, write down your habits, be accountable to them, whether it's, eating, exercise, whatever, just your habits. If you're sleeping till noon every day, working 2 hours and going back to bed, I mean, that's a habit, it's going to catch up with you, I mean, unless you got the 6-minute workday or something, but,
Well, your results are going to be based on that, right? So if you're like, hey, I'm not getting the results I want, but you can go back and look. Like, does your book have almost like a log book where you can like kind of track your habits and then be
yes,
like, oh, that sounds perfect? Because to me, that's like self accountability. Be like, hey, here are my goals, here are my habits, and I was honest, and I wrote down that I slept in and I worked 2 hours and I went back to bed. And then you can be like, oh yeah, okay, well that's why I'm not achieving my goals. But so then it's still at least in your control. You can identify what you need to change. It's just, I feel like I'm like kind of understanding your book just as you explain it. It's like, oh, I need to change this, whether it's the C, the H, whatever part of this, I need some change within there so that I can get on to the next step, see the results that I want to see. And then through like positive reinforcement, be like, all right, yeah, I'm in a better place.
exactly. I mean, I want to get an output out as well where people can track it, easier to be able to track your habits every day because, whatever goals you set, you're not making those goals. All you got to is look at those habits. It's a direct correlation. It's a direct correlation. And then the next step is going to be the attitude. And so that's another thing that, we're going to, be talking about tomorrow. But, in everyday life, I mean, people, you got to look at things in the right way. I mean, it's your attitude's going to affect it. If you say you're going to fail today, you're going to fail. If you say you're going to get up and win, you can win. You've got a chance. But you don't have a chance if you get up with a negative attitude, and people walk around with just negative attitudes. Their attitudes are poor. And so that's where, in the book, I caught myself. I'm like, okay, all right, there's a direct correlation right here. If my attitude is not right today, that it's going to, it completely hijacks and wrecks everything else. If I get up and I'm not happy, I'm not doing things. And so, what I do, for my attitude correction is, I go work out. It's like this morning. Okay. I hate cycling. I absolutely loathe it. I hate it worse than anything. I can run farther and almost as fast as I can cycle. It's too funny because I pulled my hamstring last year when I was running and I was doing almost 17 miles an hour running. And I wasn't even at full speed. And and I'm 46. I mean, so I'm not young by any stretch of the imagination, but I work really hard. But like cycling, like this morning I did, I basically rode at 20 miles an hour for 30 minutes. I rode 10 miles, but I hated it. So I had to get that out of the way, but it improves my attitude for the rest of the day. If I go get the hardest thing that I just hate the worst, because if I get up and run, it's like, it's for me, if I get up and run in the morning, that's like a treat. That's like something that's like a pleasure. It's something I enjoy doing. And so that doesn't create anything positive for me in the day, or it does, but not as much. It's I'm doing something that I despise doing. And, but the attitude, you know what I'm saying?
But you're happy when you've done it, like for an exercise routine. Like I don't like lunges. Lunges, oh my gosh. And it feels like no matter what day of the week it is, no matter how long it's been since I've done them, it feels like I'm always doing them. It's like all of a sudden I'm like, here I am again doing lunges. Almost like I live in this constant state of doing lunges. So I tried to like almost trick myself to be like, you know what? Here you are doing lunges. That means you're still doing it. That means your streak is still going. That means that you're still on track, and find those positives in it and be like, all right, lunges, let's go. Let's do it. Like no, I'll admit I don't like you, but I'm not going to, like, I'm trying to change my attitude around it. Not that I love it, but what do I love about the fact that I'm still doing it, right? What do I love about the fact that I'm still cycling? What do I love about the fact that when I'm done cycling, and I'm like, yeah, what's up? What's up, bike? I did it. You don't own me, I own you, kind of thing. And you find some kind of positive kind of reinforcement that you can take from it. And so much of it is, I make the case for mindset of like how you're going to approach something, because the bike doesn't care, right? The lunges don't care, right? Like, but it's like, how are we going to approach it? Are we going to let something like, immaterial affect us? Like, no, we have control over some of these things. So yeah, I feel like with your book, kind of walking people through these, that would kind of remind people like you have control over some of these things. And if you feel like you don't, here are some steps to kind of regain some of that control. Yeah. So C.H.A., what are we on? We're on N.
Yeah, network. And, and your network is going to, affect so many aspects of your life. It's one of the, I'm able to go through and, it's funny. I've spun the change concept so many times. I've got over 100 podcasts now. And so I've spun it so many times, but, the network, ends up being another key one because, who's around you, affects everything about you. It can affect your attitude. It definitely affects your habits. If you're, you know, whether you're with a gym group or you're with a different type of group or whatever, it really affects your behavior and things, even though you control it, it's still, it's easy to see when people are around, certain people, because, your network will, can truly help you. And you find the right people to network and have the right group of friends that, that are positive, that are growing, and they want to, do more things with their life and continue to, to chase things and to, to continue to grow, versus having, that negative mind. You're going to run into that so many times. And I've had to cut a lot of groups away and networks over time because of just the, just the sheer, it's kind of like you feel so exhausted after listening to them. You're just like, okay, I'm done for the day. I'm done, and because it starts affecting your attitude, then your habits get off, and then your communication, all those things are affected. But who you surround yourself with, that's the people you go to. When you have a problem, who do you call? Is it, do you call somebody that's an expert, or do you call just anybody? It's kind of like people just taking advice from anybody. And that happened earlier. Somebody, and they were just, just taking advice from just, it was like somebody that had no background in anything. I'm like, how did we get here? How did we get
It's like
here?
joining like a,
because they're listening. I'm like, don't, I'm thinking, don't take advice from them. It's just, but people, they don't, it's just.
but they don't know what they don't know sometimes. So they're like, well, I'll take anybody's advice, or I'm in, as someone who like really tries to my best to help people understand self-publishing, just the opportunity that exists. I'm in some free Facebook groups where I try to answer as many questions as I can. And some of the answers that people provide are bad or wrong or like terrible, or like, well, get your account suspended. And people are like, oh, thanks for the advice. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like if you like, that's just not a great place to get accurate advice, especially with something you might be potentially using for business, and to go to a free Facebook group. But what you're saying makes me think of where people often associate the term peer pressure with negativity, right? Like, oh, peer pressure will get you to do these bad things. Like, I also say peer pressure can get you to do good things, because you can be in a group where everybody's like, hey, tonight we are drinking and we're just going to stay up late and we're like, just, we're just going to waste the evening. And if everybody around you is doing that, it's real easy to be like, all right, I guess that's what we're doing, and give yourself this excuse to do that. Versus if everybody you're hanging out with is like, hey, we're working on this tonight, we're all going to learn this, and like, who needs help with something? You're like, oh, is that what we're all doing tonight? Okay, I guess that's what we're doing now. And peer pressure can work that way as well. So you can lean into peer pressure if you're surrounding yourself with peers who have some sort of alignment with what you're trying to do and your goals. So I don't think people should shy away from like the good types of peer pressure. Like if you go to the gym, just being at the gym, you're going to be with other people who are disciplined enough to go to the gym, motivated enough to go to the gym. They got themselves there, whether it's their best day ever or it's their first day ever, but they're there. And I can't imagine, every time I've been to the gym with my son, like everybody's cool, everybody's supportive, everybody's like it's just a positive place, whether you're interacting with other people or not. Because some people put their headphones on, they don't want to be bothered, but no one's negative, no one's laughing at anybody, no one's teasing, and no one's saying, oh, that's not enough weight. You're like, oh, that doesn't happen. That happens in the movies, right? Where it's like everybody, like the big dumb jocks are going to pick on people. And I swear, every time I've watched like a movie with my kids are 14 and 16, so just movies growing up where they have like some depiction of high school where the jocks beat up the nerds. And I'm like, guys, that doesn't actually happen. Okay. This is like a stereotype. Maybe it happens like random, I can't say it never happens, but generally, no, that doesn't happen, especially like at an actual gym environment. So like if fitness is something that, people want to work on and have change, like just go to the gym, hang out with people at the gym, just be there. There's not going to be the negative people who could have a bad influence on you at the gym. I promise. Those people are not disciplined enough to go work out. It's just not happening.
Exactly. That's you're right on the money. It's always a good positive feeling everything. And I mean, and the one time it wasn't, I got them involved. I'll tell you a quick funny story that happened a few weeks ago. So I'm in there. It's 5 o'clock in the morning. That's like 4:30 actually. I got there around 5.
Hey, can you pause the story?
Yeah.
Sorry, love, I'm on a call. Like by 8? Sorry about that. I'll chop it up and edit it. So yeah, start your the story again.
All right. Well, I do have a good gym story for you talking about network. Though so a few weeks ago I was there about 4:30 in the morning at the gym, and so I look around and I realize nobody had any intensity. I'm an intense guy anyway. I mean, I work out hard. I mean, I'm really intense, but I realized nobody. It's just kind of like they were sleepwalking.
Just low energy.
No energy, nothing. I'm like, man, let me get this straight. You've got up at 4 o'clock this morning to get here to come in, and you're not even going to put that much effort in. So what I did is I got people to participate. And so I actually went and did something I don't normally do, which I don't normally bench press that often. And so I got this guy to come spot me, because he was just standing over, he was just kind of all lethargic and everything. I'm like, really? What are you doing, man? I mean, it's why are you even here? And so I got him to come over. And so I put 225. I said, well, I may get it 15, 20, 25 times, maybe a little more. And so we start off benching, are going and everything. And the first one, actually, when it come off, I do a lot of hammer strength. And so I don't have to balance that much. So it come off and it was a little off, like on the balance. And I bet he didn't think I was going to make it a few. But next thing I go, I keep going. And about before it was over, I hit 32. And this guy's like, whoa, he couldn't believe it. He's like, you just did 32. I'm like, yeah. And so all of a sudden, there was a whole change in the way his whole mindset was. I mean, this guy, he perked up and he's like, man, if this guy can do it, this old guy can do it, I can do it too, And so, it changed the whole, just that network environment. It changed everything. And then I noticed a few more people kind of got a little more, involved and more excited because they could see, that people in there actually, really hammering it out at that time. And I know it's, you're normally sleepy early in the morning. It's hard to get moving, but just that little bit of energy made all the difference, And so having that network, that positive network in which, it was a surreal moment because I just had never stepped back and really paid attention to the intensity level, like I did that morning. Man, but it's so positive.
How many times do you think that guy has now told that story to someone else? He's like, guys, I was at the gym and I was just kind of hanging out doing my thing. And this guy comes over. He's like, needs a spot. I would never guess. This dude pumps out 32 at 225. And he's telling that story, right? So it's one of those things where, I think people sometimes, maybe it's because of the era of social media, where people forget that you can do something nice for somebody. And you don't do it because, hey, maybe this will go viral. No, just do something nice and kind of let the chips fall. And if you do enough nice things, I would make the case that good things are going to happen. Whether they're things you're ever going to see or you can measure or not, but good things are going to happen to where that guy's going to tell some story, or it could be something that ends up on social media where you actually almost selfishly benefit. Where guys, I sold 1,000 books last month because of this because I replied to somebody on Twitter. Those things can happen if you do it enough times, but you have to do it from a state of, look, I don't know if I'm going to sell 1,000 books, but I'm still going to go on Twitter. And if I see somebody has a problem with this, I'm going to give them a few seconds of my day and I'm going to answer their question. Those are things that people can do to build a brand, to sell books, to help their business and all these different things. And a lot of people, they just don't do it because they're like, well, either they think they don't have the time or they think it's not going to work. It's like, well, if you think it's not going to work, it's definitely not going to work. I guarantee, I think it's because people want guarantees. I want a guarantee of something. Well, the only guarantee I can give you is if you don't reply to anybody on social media, nothing will happen. I promise. Right.
Yeah.
But something could happen if you enough times put yourself out there with the spirit of simply just wanting to help people, which is rewarding in itself. So I hope more people, they don't treat social media like transactionally and just treat it like business only. It's like you can help people and help your business at the same time. And I think by you writing these books, especially kind of your flagship Change book, is you've put all this content into one thing where someone could buy it that you never know that they bought it. You never know that they read it, but it positively affects their life. And it may come back later and they're going to come up and shake your hand at an event and be like, I read your book 10 years ago. And because of that, I'm here today doing this. And that's one of the reasons I encourage more people to write books, even if it's something short, sweet. It can be 24 pages. Like people forget that books can be quite short. It still exists as books. It still communicates something. And people don't have to think I have to write 300 pages. Like, no, you absolutely don't have to write 300 pages. You can write a lot fewer pages than 300 and have a book and get it out there. And, like we can talk about some ways to get books into people's hands as well, but we still have to finish G&E.
Right. When we look at G is just simply goals, and it lines up with your habits, and I started off the year with, the Goal Getter, as just, a simple book on goal achievement and not just goal setting. But in, this sense, it's goal setting. But, when I do the updated change, we're going to go into more goal achievement, because that's going to be, more productive, actually achieving them, because we can write down and set all the goals we want. But the only way to achieve them is going to be through the habits and following through the change program, and following these things, because, you want to have, short-term, long-term, and then, you have your crazy, over the top goals. But I mean, when we look at it and break everything down, I mean, it's all simple. It's all really simple if people would just write it down. I think it's like less than 10% of people write their goals down. And those are the top 10% of people globally, the people that write the goals. And so, I just find it to be so important to write things down every night, review them every morning, and try to check them off every day. And, and you're not always going to make them every day, but, at the same time, I mean, even if you complete 8 out of 10 things on your list, you've completed way more than the average person. I mean, you've probably completed.
You're closer.
Then, because people just set off with no plan. That's why I put goals in there, because there's been too many times that I would set off with no plan. I mean, I just, okay, because that's just kind of, this guy, I would just take off, and I wouldn't think about it until later. And I'm like, man, I missed so many things. And so that's where the goal side of it come in there, because, all these are weaknesses that I've had. And that's why, I communicate them, in the book.
Well, I think that's a great takeaway that people need to understand. If they're thinking of writing their own book, like would you almost say you wrote your book almost for you? Like, hey, I use my own book myself. I just figure you guys might also want to try it. So I published it, and you guys can try it too. But this works for me over years of experience. It's not always perfect. I don't always achieve every single goal every single day. But hey, I'm closer than I was. Right? I'm not going backwards. And if I miss something, if I don't achieve something, I still have it there. I'm reminded of it. I keep pushing forward. It feels a heck of a lot better when I do finally achieve that goal. And then, I just love the idea of publishing, to where you say, look, I made this for me. You guys can use it too if you want. It's available, and it's self-published, so it's on Amazon. It's Prime eligible. It's printed on demand. You don't have to ship anything. Do you ship any of your own books, or you just let Amazon do all of it?
Well, I let them do for the most part, but I mean, I'm going to start putting more of them on my website, because I'm going to buy more, maybe give them out in advance and sell them and things. And when I go speak at different places, when I have different events, I'm getting ready to get into that season now. I'm just kind of, I've got so many other businesses too. It's just kind of having to, balance everything out to do it. But yeah, I mean, I like them doing it. It makes it a lot easier, and at the same time, I like having that copy, to where I can hand you that copy and say, hey, here you go.
Yep. I love the paperback. That is one of the things that I really try to impress upon people. It's not about I like the Kindle book. It's easy. There's a ton of promotional options you can do with it. But to be able to have a physical book, something you can hold up, whether it's holding it up on a video, holding it up to take a picture for Instagram, holding it up from the stage, being able to hand somebody something, it's like, they look it up on Amazon, they're like, dude, this is like $20. You're like, yeah, I want you to have it. In the back of your mind, you're like, it only cost me like $2.50, right? Like that's what people forget, is you're able to leverage that margin as a marketer when you're able to give away your books. You can say, hey, everybody, this website up on the screen right now, put your email in right there, or send me your address, and I will send everybody that puts their email address or the physical address in here, I will send you a copy of the book. Yes, that's going to cost you a little bit. It's going to cost you less if you fulfill digitally. But now you've collected names, emails, phone numbers, addresses, potential, now you've got leads for your business, because people are like, I like this guy. I like him enough that I will actually type in that email, that website, and give him my information. Like, that's hard to do. People forget, like, what's the cost to acquire a potential lead? What's the cost to add somebody to your email list? And when you have a book, things get interesting from a marketing perspective. So I'm glad you have published these books. And even as we're talking, I'm still, back of my brain is still just spinning on publishing a book every week. on multiple topics, because I have never done the series through KDP. I've done pretty much everything else, but I've not done the series. And as I'm looking at your page and the way that Amazon is presenting it, and I can buy all of them with one click. Oh my gosh, this is so genius. And that Kindle price total one click is going to rise as you publish, to where now you're by the end of the year, you're going to have what's going to be $5. It's like $250 project, right? Am I getting that right? Like $260.
Yeah.
But it's yours. It's your digital asset, to where in theory you could give that away as a prize. You could give that away to a client. You could give that away to 5 people at an event, and people will be like, "Are you serious? That's like over $200." Like, really? Oh man, Brad's like the most generous guy I've ever seen, and I'm gonna tell everybody I ever meet how generous he is. And you're only able to do that because you self-publishing, to actually write the books, to stay on track for an entire year. Yeah, I'm a dream about some of the stuff that you're doing tonight. But we still got E. We got to get to the E.
E's education. It's it's a true foundation of something I really believe in. Whether you're reading books, whether you're taking courses, anything, whether you're learning skills, whether it be learning how to build a fence, that's education. I just that's one of the things that it's come really easily to me, and so I took it for granted. Even though when I was going through my doctoral studies, I mean, I'm reading 500 pages a week. I didn't appreciate it. It's one of those things that I didn't enjoy like I should have. But now, I read, 100 books a year because I enjoy it. I read it, but I also go and apply it. And that's where the E comes in, is being able to apply what you've learned, because it's, education is so important to me, because I mean, I can, see the growth in someone, the confidence and everything that goes, with getting that next level of education. Because even if it's a course, that course can teach you so much to help you get towards your goals. And so, a lot of people don't appreciate it enough, I think. And that's one of the, part of the reasoning for E in there, but it was for me because I didn't appreciate it enough, because things have come easily. But, at the end of the day, I didn't appreciate it. I didn't understand it and understand how important it was, even though I've spent many, many years, continuing to grow. And, and every single day, I said, just almost every day I read a book. Like right now, especially when I'm getting ready for this. I mean, I'm listening to or reading like an entire book every day over the next few weeks as I get ready for that ultra marathon. Because, it's just when I'm in focus, that's what I'm doing. When I'm in focus, that's, I'm able to get that and block that out for 3 or 4 hours right there, because I'm doing some of it while I'm training. And so it makes it easier to transition that. But I just, I really believe in the people, growing, no matter what the skill is, learning something new. If you can't learn something new, I just don't feel anybody can learn something new if they'll just apply themselves and want to do it, and it's really, has to do with the attitude. But that's, the education side, really, it's near and dear to me, because I mean, it's something that I've seen people grow in so many ways, when they grew their education, whatever increment, or just like the people we're going to see tomorrow, I mean, they're incarcerated, and seeing them be able to work through one of our courses, or be able to work through something, a problem, even just like interview skills and things like that, how to present yourself, how to answer questions, and I always ask, just off the beat questions like I do. It just, they're kind of wild, but it's to throw them off, to see how they're going to react when stress comes there. It's kind of like the Amazon question when they ask you how many windows are in your neighborhood, and then they go based on your answer of how you try to figure the problem out. It's not that you're ever going to get it right. They're looking to see how you think about things, and so that's stuff like that's what really gets me up every day.
I think a lot of people kind of miss out on the education part, because if they've had a not necessarily bad experience through school, but there is a little bit of a stereotype where kids don't like school, and as soon as they graduate, they can't wait to like not have to read books and not have to do all these things, and they've been seeing it with the wrong point of view for so long, instead of like the gift and the like, that we get to learn something. And then yes, you graduate, and yes, you can learn more things, and yes, we have the internet now, and yes, we have Kindle books that can be download any book in the world practically, and see that as a blessing instead of as a Like, no, I'm done with school. I'm done with books. I don't want to do any of that. And it's like, no, you got it all wrong. Like it's not bad. You're not this like dumb nerd because you're learning something, but kids are impressionable. I mean, I remember growing up thinking, I can't wait till I turn 16. I'm gonna drop out of school because school is dumb and all. Like I remember that because that's kind of what I was hearing on the playground and all this stuff. And in hindsight, like, oh my gosh, what a terrible way to view school and education and like where do you want to be in life and what do you want to do? Is like, yeah, you're probably gonna have to learn some things. Do you know Matt Higgins? He was on Shark Tank. He's a client of Nick's, and he's got something that he talks about called proprietary insight. And I think a lot of the people you work with might actually really benefit from this kind of idea. Proprietary insight just means like, hey, you've learned a whole bunch of new things. You took a course about something that wasn't exactly what you wanted to learn, but you learned something from it anyway. And now you have two new things that maybe haven't been combined before. And like, for example, like for me, self-publishing and using books for business and marketing. That's where I get excited. That's where I'm like, please, like, let's talk about that all day long. But someone could definitely be into self-publishing, and self-publishing is easy and it's not hard. Anybody can do it, and just go to Amazon and it's KDP and it's free. Like, as itself isn't terribly interesting. Like, if someone wants to publish a book, sure, I'll tell you how to do it. You're probably not going to sell any. You're probably, if I say use it as a lead magnet to grow your email list, you have no idea what I'm talking about. But as someone who's a marketer who understands the value ladder and cost of acquiring a customer and email marketing, and then I see, wait a minute, self-publishing? You mean I could have a book based on like whatever I want, like a topic of expertise or my personal story, and for zero cost, it can be on Amazon, the world's largest, most trusted marketplace. And when someone orders it, I don't have to do any work, and I know the value that people are going to be like, you literally wrote the book on this. Okay, I'm listening, and you get instant credibility. Yes, let's merge those two things. There's a huge opportunity here. And I find that pretty much everybody probably has some kind of proprietary insight. So if someone's been incarcerated, they know things that I don't know, right? Like I won't pretend to know what someone who's been incarcerated knows or feels about the world or any of those things. But I would strongly make the case that they know something if combined with something that you can share with them, something that they could learn in a book, something they learn from an online course, where they're like, wait a minute, I can put these two things together. I understand there's a lot of people like me who have this struggle in their life, and I have now learned how to overcome that by doing this. Let me combine those two things, and they're going to be excited. They're going to feel like they have a purpose. You're going to kind of see a light at the end of the tunnel. And how rewarding is it if you're the one who can come in and kind of just put them on that path? Be like, look, I'm not taking any credit for anything you do, but please get on this path and you take all the credit for everything that you do by getting to the end. And if I'm the guy just put you on the path, look, I'm great. I don't need credit. I don't need any of that stuff. But that's what you can do through education, by learning things, and then by sharing, as well. Some of the stuff that you're doing, yeah, I'm very interested in some of the things you're doing because it sounds very rewarding, like personally rewarding, as well as just helping other people. It's just there's some kind of dopamine that's released when you just help. Like someone drops all their papers and you help them pick them up, and you feel good. You're like, I just picked up stuff off the ground, and I feel good. It's because you're helping other people. It's understanding like the psychology of just humanity. There are a lot of things that they don't always make sense, but once you understand that, hey, it feels good to help people, so I'm just going to help people and see what happens. It can make living life kind of simpler, I think, instead of thinking transactionally about a lot of things.
You actually give me a good idea. I'm going to talk to them about tomorrow, see if anyone wants to share their story and we can work on publishing their books when they get released. I mean, to work on it while they're in it. I mean, this is why I love these conversations, because it just, the light just went off. I'm just like, wait a minute, because we were talking about a documentary earlier. I was talking about business partner on the self-development factory side of it, and that's what we were talking about. And then now we're talking about it. It's like, wait a minute, you can merge those things right there. That's brilliant. I mean, because being able to get that perspective and understand somebody's story and how they're, applying all these things. And so this is great.
Yeah, I don't claim to be an expert on incarceration. I'm sure a lot of people ended up. It's a line from a Tupac song where he says, "I never did a crime I didn't have to do," and that's from the '90s. And I think about that, where it's like, I don't think a lot of people make bad decisions because they have a good decision and a bad decision to make, so they choose the bad. But if you have two bad decisions, then whatever you choose is going to be bad. And if that lands you in jail and now you're incarcerated, that sucks. And there are a lot of bad situations that hopefully can get better. I would make the case like you could easily make a template for somebody because maybe they don't have a lot of computer skills. Say, look, this is a Word document. Fill in these chapters. Who am I? Like, what happened to me? What did I learn? What do I want to do with my life? And just keep it simple. Just keep it as a fill this in, and you'll be able to publish it. And then once it's published, which is, it's completely free, you could contact local news outlets and say, hey, this is who I am. This is what happened to me. I was incarcerated for this long, and I published a book about it. I guarantee someone local is going to pick that story up. And just to like the local news stations are like begging. They're like sitting around being like, what can we make a story about today? This guy who was locked up for 10 years got out and published a book. Yes, I can't guarantee anything. I think it's very highly likely that they will jump on that opportunity. And now you don't do it to get on TV. You do it to get that 4-minute clip that you can now share on social media to be like, look, I'm out here doing this, trying to better myself. If I can help other people along the way. And that, who knows what that starts, but I don't see any negatives coming from it, and after they publish once, they'll be like, you know what? I know how to publish. This Brad guy told me how to publish. You know what I'm going to publish now? I'm going to publish this. And I'm going to get with my kids and publish their stories and give them the confidence at 12 years old that they can publish. And I don't know. Like, this is where I just get excited about publishing because you still get a disproportionate benefit, in my opinion, of being a published author that used to take a lot more effort, right? You used to have a publisher, an agent, and an editor, and you had to sell 1,000 copies before they'd even talk to you. Now you don't need any of that. It's completely free. So wide open opportunities. Yeah, if you need help with any of this, we'll stay in touch,
we definitely need to stay in touch after this. I mean, there's a lot of things we can sync on, and I mean, like I said, just get great ideas just talking to you. Just in our conversation even before we went on, started recording. I'm like, okay, this is going to go really well. I mean, started talking about a lot of relatable things, and it's like this always brings up ideas when you get to talking to other people that are thinking. It's like just like my my partner in the self-development. We'll talk. And in like an hour, we can get more done than people can get done in probably 2 days because we go right through it. All of a sudden, that idea, okay, let's test this, let's try this, and, talking and getting that other perspective. Because if not, it's like you're talking to yourself. Is this right? Is this wrong? It's hard to always know.
No, there's a phrase about like when you have more people around, it's like they're more than the sum of the parts or something like that. Have you played around with many of the KDP promotions for Kindle books, like making your books 99 cents or just giving them away?
Yes, I mean I do like okay, what I do with all 52. I mean the weekend that they're released, I give them away for free all weekend. I give it away for free, and then then I run.
So do you encourage people to get on your email list so that hey, get on my email list so that you get the reminder that they're free. Don't miss out. I'm like trying to give you free books, and then build your email list that way.
Yes. I mean, I'm trying.
That's smart.
I've got to work at it more to to keep adding people on it. But I think by the end of the year, it's going to grow out significantly because they're going to be like, wow, okay, we've got a lot of different things that we can get.
But the earlier you get in, the more value you're going to get.
Exactly, because that's
right. So there is some incentive. Have you ever heard of buying your own Kindle book that you can then give away as like a redemption link? Did you know you could do that?
I have not. That's very interesting. I'd like to find out more.
So you can, and especially since you're the author, you could go in and lower your price to 99 cents. You could do it as like a temporary price promo. You can do it for like 10 minutes, right? Just drop it to 99 cents. But then you can go in as customer and say, look, I want to buy 100 copies or 1,000 copies. And you could just put in email addresses and Amazon would just send redemption links to everybody whose email address you give them. I've never done it that way because I prefer the second way, which means I'm going to buy 500 copies. And now Amazon's going to give me 500 individual unique redemption links. And I can track them so I can see if they've been redeemed or not. I can return them within 60 days if I want to. But now I can say, hey, join my email list and I will give you this book, whether it's your Change book or one of your 52 books. And once they join, you send them a unique link back. And then by then, the price has gone back up to $4.99 or $19.99 or whatever the price is. So now they see, dang, my man Brad just gave me like a $5 book or a $10 book or a $20 book. But it only cost you 99 cents because the price has gone back up. And you can buy not just your own books, you can buy other people's books. And there is a way, I can send you information on this because I know we're short on time. where you can track other people's books. So if Nick drops the price of his book down to 99 cents on Kindle, you could buy 1,000 copies of Nick's book. And then you could say, hey, when you join, you're going to get my book and you're going to get a copy of Rise of the Reader, which is also $10 on Amazon. And all of a sudden people are like irresistible. Like, of course I got to join this email list. I'm getting like $50 worth of Kindle books, but it's only costing you $3, $4, $5 because not only like, you're the author and you're tracking other people's book prices. So you only pay when it's on promo. You don't pay full retail. I found this to be very, very effective because people in my opinion, they really like getting a Kindle or an actual Amazon product instead of here's a PDF. Here's a PDF of book one. People are like, yeah, PDF. I don't know. I don't get excited about PDFs anymore.
Right.
I like an Amazon link that puts something on my Kindle device for free, and you're able to leverage the difference in price by doing that. So, yeah, we are at time. So for anybody that wants to know more information about you and what you're doing in your books, where's the best place that they can find you?
www.bradyoungchange.com. On my website, I've got links where you can request, information, anything like that. I mean, just go on there, request it, has my personal email on there, and I answer all emails.
And also, if you just look in Brad Young Change on Amazon, that will pull up your books. And you have an author page that links to all of your books, including the series page for A Better You, 52 books a year. Like, I'm not kidding. I'm going to go brainstorm this series page of putting out constant. It's almost like you put out blog articles if you want. You can put out anything 52 weeks a year and get them on that email list. Yeah, just as I'm talking to you, this is so good. We'll have to call it the Brad Young strategy because got to give you credit. Got to give you credit for the original idea. So thanks for talking books and marketing. I have a prediction that we'll probably hop on another call and talk more about books and marketing because I feel there's a lot more to explore on all this stuff. So it was great meeting you. I'm thankful for Nick for putting us together. And yeah, let's chat again soon.
Sounds great, man. Thank you so much for having me.
All right. Thanks, Brett. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Authorpreneur Podcast. If you'd like more information about this episode's guest, you can find links to their books, websites, and social media profiles in the show notes and video description. If you're an author or business owner who's interested in learning more about how you can use books and published author status to market and grow your business or personal brand, or if you're an aspiring author looking for more information about the publishing process, you can find more information and request an author audit at authorpreneur.com. And if you'd like to be a guest on the show, or if you'd like to recommend someone, please reach out via email to chris@authorpreneur.com. Remember, a book is just a book, but when it's your book, it's an asset. #Authorpreneur.